Hi, this is Dwight Gillespie, and I want to welcome you back to Change Your Life. And here we give you some practical information on how you can live a better life and get out of that mediocre boat. Anyway, if you haven't done so already, please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you know when we're going to be uploading again. It's uploading or downloading. I always get those two confused. Anyway, so that you know when we're issuing another video. That's safe, right? And by all means, comment, share it with your friends. If you hear something here that you like, by all means, share it. Now today, and I have a good book out. We've actually talked about this, I think, 2 videos ago, and it's the War of Art. And I'm only using it. I'm not really talking about his book here, but he said something very interesting that I liked. Today, we're going to talk about hyperfocus, right, and why that's important. Like, what is hyperfocus, and how does it work in your life? And I use a term that I for some reason it hit me with my friend Danielle when she was saying something, and then you have to understand Danielle's an Orthodox Jew, so we're talking, and I said, well, you got to put it to the Auschwitz test, right? Which is something she could relate to. I didn't know how politically incorrect it was. She said, well, what does that mean, right? She immediately was offended, and I said, well, if you were in Auschwitz, would this be important? And I know that sounds like a really messed up way to say it, but it's true. Like, is this that important? Does this serve your survival? Because we get lost in all of these things that are just really, in the grand scheme of things, so unmeaningful that there's nothing to them, right? And I said there's a great book. It was is it Stories Before You Die or something like, I forget the name of it, and I'll look it up. But it was basically it was a book written by a woman about she worked in hospice. She was a nurse in Australia. She worked in hospice. I have the book. I haven't read it in a long time though. But it was basically what people think about on their deathbed. Like, what are their regrets? Or I think it's the 5 regrets or something like that. Anyway, good book. But like, what is important? What is important to you? And what is hyperfocus? And hyperfocus is that thing. And I remember when my son passed away and when my father died, like, everything else just melted away. Nothing else was important, and all I could focus on was what was going on in that moment. Like, you want to talk about being in the moment, and all that mattered in that moment was in this case, I mean, the pain, right? But if I can translate that hyperfocus to other areas of my life and really let the things that are less important just melt away, right? It tells us what our priorities are. What are your priorities? What is really important at the end of the day? And this is a book we've talked about before called The War of Art. It's Stephen Pressfield. I'm a fan. I really just found out about this guy not too long ago, and I've read a couple of his books now. He's an author, and he wrote one of his big ones was The Legend of Bagger Vance, and he's got a lot of other books. He's a prolific writer, very good. But this is about the War of Art. It's about really, for me anyway, finding what's important and your passion. For me, it's writing and doing what we're doing right here, and in this is a chapter called Life and Death, and this is really my feeling, and he sums it up here very well. And he's talking about his friend Tom Laughlin, who was he was an actor in Billy Jack, and apparently Tom Laughlin had started a foundation for cancer patients. So he says, the moment a person learns he's got terminal cancer, a profound shift takes place in his psyche. At one stroke in the doctor's office, he becomes aware of what really matters to him. Things that 60 seconds earlier had deemed all important suddenly appeared meaningless, while people in concern he had then dismissed at once taken on supreme importance. Maybe he realized working this weekend on that big deal at the office isn't all that vital. Maybe it's more important to fly cross-country for his grandson's graduation. Maybe it isn't so crucial that he had the last word in that fight with his wife. Maybe instead, he should tell her how much she means to him and how deeply he has always loved her. Other thoughts occur to the patient diagnosed as terminal. What about that gift he had for music? What became of the passion he once felt to work with the sick and the homeless? Why do these unlived lives return now with such power and poignancy? And then he goes on later on, he says, what happens in that instant when we learn we may soon die? Tom Laughlin contends is that the seat of our consciousness shifts. It moves from the ego to the self. The world is entirely new, viewed from the self. At once, we discern what's really important. Superficial concerns fall away, replaced by a deeper, more profoundly grounded perspective. This is how Tom Laughlin's foundation battles cancer. He counsels his clients not just to make that shift mentally, but to live it out in their lives. He supports the housewife who resumes her career in social work, urges the businessman to return to the violin, assists the Vietnam vet to write his novel. Miraculously, cancers go into remission. People recover. Is it possible, Tom Laughlin asks, that the disease itself evolved as a consequence of actions taken or not taken in our lives? Could our unlived lives have exacted their vengeance upon us in the form of cancer? And if they did, can we cure ourselves now by living these lives out? And I don't know about all that. I mean, I've had some very good friends die of cancer, and I don't know that's it. But I think there could be something to that. I really do. In many instances, because changing when you're diagnosed with something that's life-threatening like that, it definitely changes you when you're hit with these life-altering situations, right? It changes your focus. And they say when you have these things that releasing that stress and finding your inner bliss is very important. Just like they say, laughter is great when you're sick, you have cancer. Watch funny things. It's when you get into those depressing states, one of the things that people do, I know from people that I've worked with, one of the first things is to lament. We lament what we didn't do, right? And that's that book I was talking about. Like, what are the regrets? Like, we're all going to pass through this life. Like, nobody's here. As Jim Morrison said, nobody gets out alive. Very profound. It's one of the few lines you can really understand from Jim Morrison. And love me 2 times. All right. But anyway, we're gonna pass through this realm, right? It's gonna happen. There's a beginning and an end, and it's what we do with that, right? We talk about the dash in between, and we mentioned that in one of the most recent videos. The dash in between on the headstone, right? That's the life. That's your life. That's that dash from this year to this year. What's in between is who you are, what you've become. And so many people, when they're diagnosed with something horrendous, it really brings to mind, like, oh my God, like this isn't going to go on forever. I'm going to die. And here are the list of things that I wish I had done or I wish I had not done. And I think what they're getting at with this, right, and with that hyper focus is, why wait? Why wait? Discuss for yourself. And I'm a big believer, right? I counsel a lot of people in this as well, is to sit down with a pad and pen and write out your goals, write out the things you like. I have a friend, and just recently I said, maybe you should write down what do you really want to do. And he's working a job. It's an okay job. He makes good money, but he's not happy. It's not a satisfying endeavor. I told him, well, sit down. What do you want to do? I don't really know. He's 30 years old. And he says, I don't know. So well, write about it. Sit down. Write on a piece of paper. What does your best day look like? What does it look like? If you were living the life you really wanted to live, and I'm not talking about that bullshit, I'd be on Bali with some, beautiful person next to me, that I could have indiscriminate, unrequited sex with and, drink pina coladas until I float. That's called vacation, right? That's your vacation. That's a really good vacation, by the way. I don't drink pina coladas, but the other stuff sounded pretty good. That's not what this is about. This is about, like, when I talk about this, about focusing on what your day looks like, right? If you were living the life you really wanted to live, what does that look like to you? And you can say, here, I have this up, and I just put it here. It says, once a person is determined to help themselves, there is nothing that can stop them. That was Nelson Mandela, who knew a lot about having to persevere through very objectionable circumstances, obviously. And to see it, though, in writing, right, to do it in your own hand, because I have guys like, I have them do this work, and they say, I'm going to type it. There's no typing, there's no texting, there's none of that bullshit, no voicemails. It has to be in your handwriting. And the reason that I like that, right? The reason it's in your own handwriting is because you wrote that and there's no denying it. It's in your handwriting and you see it. These are your words. This is what you want. You are taking these are your hopes, your dreams, and your aspirations. And there's nothing wrong with that job, working, for sanitation or whatever it is, or for the phone. I worked for the phone company for 25 years here in New York, but I hated it. Like I hated it. I was able to take care of my family. I was able to do, well, not at the end because of the little heroin thing, but before that, we went on an okay vacation every year. I was able to give my son really nice things, but I hated it. I hated it, but I focused on the peripheral. I focused on the money. I focused on the material. I focused on all the things that didn't make me happy that I thought would, because I thought if I drove a better car, it'll make me happy. If I do this, it'll make me happy. But, and this is another one we're going to do, but happiness is such a horrible goal. It's such a horrible goal because most people don't know what's going to make them happy. You don't know it until you have it. I say I battled addiction all my life, and I didn't realize until I had actually really quit drugs that what I was looking for my whole life wasn't happiness, but peace. I was looking for a peace that I never had, this inner quality, right? This feeling of contentment with myself. And that's what the drugs were trying to do. They were trying to supplant, all those negative feelings and all that stuff. And it didn't work. After a while, the drugs didn't do what I was employing them for. And what it's taken now in my life is this hyperfocus, this unbelievable drive to find out what it is that really motivates. And this is it, like helping people, talking to people, saying, listen, man, live your life, because this is the only one you're going to get. You're not getting another one. Right? This is the moment. You live in the moment. You live for today. Tomorrow is not promised, and yesterday is gone. In today, are you living the life you truly want to live? Hyper-focus. Focus on what is it you really want to do. Get that pad, get that pen, and write down, this is what my day would look like. And for me, I'll tell you what that day looks like. That day looks like me waking up in the morning, going down to the beach, right? Praying, meditating, doing my thing there, working out, coming home and sitting down and writing. Like, that's my day. That's my perfect day. I have somebody by my side. She's intelligent and she's articulate and she's pretty and we enjoy each other's company, but not too much because I think that people need separate lives. Like, this is it. And I went through this exercise that I'm telling you about, and that's how I know what it is that I want. Like, I know it, and I'll know it when I see it. I haven't seen it, but I'll know it when I see it. And I am now working toward that end. I am doing the things that are going to lead me to my bliss. And that's it. And I'm living my life right now. Like, I have a really good life. I really believe that if it's meant to be, the money will follow. And money can't be my goal. Money isn't happiness. Money helps. It's a good tool because it helps you get that house by the beach. It helps you get a lot of good things. But if that's my goal, then it's not going to work, because you want to find out if money is happiness. Go ahead and Google a couple of things for me. Google actors who've died from drug overdoses, actors who've died from suicide. These are the famous people. Philip Seymour Hoffman comes to mind. Here's a guy who had everything. He had everything. Top of his craft, making money hand over fist. Listen to crazy Alyssa Milano go off about Tesla and all this. It wasn't bad enough when she went off about the Washington Redskins. I don't even know what they call themselves. And they showed all the shirts when she was selling their wares, right? You're like, but honey, shh, you're crazy. Shh. And you're letting everybody know it, right? Because money doesn't buy happiness. Money doesn't buy sanity. Money does not buy any of that, right? If you use it properly, money is a good tool. I say if I hit the lot, I'd probably give most of the money away. I don't need a lot, right? So that's not my goal. My goal isn't to sell things. And I had a partner, who I used to do things with, and he's like, yeah, we can make these programs and we can sell it and we'll make money and we don't even have to, make it before we sell it. Like, dude, that's not what I do. That's not my thing. I do this weight loss thing. It's called Bright Line Eating. It's beautiful. Susan Pierce Thompson, love you. You're a genius. I love you. Follow you, right? And she makes it very clear that in weight loss, right, that it's not about a number. The number is not important. You'll get into your right size body. And that's what she calls it, your right size body, right? And that's that hyper focus of deciding what's important. Is a number important? No. Because there are people who are thin, who are sick as hell, right? And God forbid, we talk about cancer patients. You're 110 pounds soaking wet, where you were 300, not long before. That's cancer. That's not healthy, obviously. She talks about the right size body because you don't get wrapped up. People get wrapped up in a number. I got to get to that number, right? It's money. People get addicted to money. I got to get to that number. And that number is insignificant. What are you doing with this money? Why is it important? Why do you want this? And that's a good question to ask too. In Hyperfocus, Stephen Covey talks about writing a mission statement, and that's where all of this really started for me. By the way, it was with Stephen Covey, like making that mission statement and finding out what's really important to you, and asking yourself why. Why do I want that house out there? Why do I want to move to? Why do I want these things? And I can tell you, I know for me, and these are very personal things, and things I've shared a lot of them with you. I like that life. I like the life out there. I enjoy the sunshine. I enjoy the weather. I enjoy the people. I enjoy the food. I enjoy everything about it, right? This is why. This is my why. Like people talk about it. Les Brown talks about it as well. Find your why. Like find your why. Why do you want this stuff? But to break that down, why? Why do you like these people? For whatever reason. And keep breaking that down, and you'll find the essence of who you really are and what's really important in your life. That life isn't just about, there's another thing. Anyway, not to quote this guy too much, but he talks about, like what makes working in a factory or working in a cubicle a normal way of life. What makes that normal? Who decided that? The people who hired you to do it, who are not living that life, right? Who think it's okay for you to live it. Anyway. Hyperfocus, and to me, that's what hyperfocus is focusing in on what's really important. When you get that bad news, what becomes important to you? And again, I call it the Auschwitz test, but again, it's not very politically correct. But it works for me, and I think about it sometimes. I say, is this really a problem? I found in life that the harder something is, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, usually the more beneficial it's going to be for me in one form or another. And that goes back to Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning, right? Is deriving some good out of the pain. Like every great experience I've ever learned through in my life has come through great pain, losing my children, my father's suicide. Like those have been my greatest moments of growth through those very, very difficult times. My father's suicide taught me that I don't want to kill myself. And that's a big thing. Anyway, we'll get into that another time. I think we've covered this enough. I think this is good enough. Hyperfocus. Get on it. Anyway. All right, we'll cut that, right? Okay, then. Okay, and on that note, we'll say goodbye. I wish you all well. Have a wonderful week. My name is Dwight Gillespie. Again, subscribe, like, all that good shit. You know what to do. Comment, share it with your friends, and by all means, keep checking in on us. We'll be back. Thank you.